Fine. We are going into round number 5 of the Aquamarine Cup. We have X9 Breaker, Wolf, Clapper Strauss, 420, and Scream and PLC. Let's go with that. Okay, so for this map, we have a low starting glass price but a glass colony. Something to keep an eye on. Early upgrades will be pretty cheap for our glass colonies, but will get more expensive. We have high starting chems and carbon. And we do have scavengers available, so there's definitely room to take advantage of that. This found is set up to do that. Really no particular reason for it not to be just over here, these 5 tiles. Get immediate access to the carbon and aluminum. Avoid the shipping costs of that. Just all a little better. Also, probably not worth the 46k in debt for the found. But again, it's fine. It's fine. We will tell ourselves that it is fine. On the other hand, Wolf moving into this Nomad on the Devil tiles, Carbon Silicon, again, just really nice to have both right off the bat, especially with Carbon starting expensive. This is going to be a lot of money very quickly. Especially, yeah, with electronics starting cheap, that will just be a quick HQ2, snowball into a quick HQ3, and with also just near some nice water, going to be able to make, well, water money immediately off of that, but soon after, other life support. Other thing players might want to look into is the dry ice, even. Okay, so last time I looked at the dry ice condenser output, that was probably during a dust storm. This does in fact produce 0.5 oxygen and carbon. I am not going crazy. That is good to know. Okay, so Scream also found it in a kind of random spot and doing the kind of single power, single water thing that never really pays off. So, bit unfortunate there. X9, we should finally take a look over here. Double steel to start, getting that aluminum. So, it's a pretty solid scientific found. One thing I would wonder about is if founding, say, like there-ish, might have been better. Immediately have access to a diamond of potential steel, and also just still be adjacent to the water. You'd have to ship the aluminum a little farther, but that's not a big deal. Just one tile worth of aluminum. The upside to this found, of course, is that you are able to build out to the aluminum. Could have pretty easily gone for a line of condensers just to connect that up, because I'm pretty sure that is an ice tile. It is. Which would have been nice. Would have also given the option of transitioning the ice into more aluminum if that ended up being seeming necessary, seeming like a good idea, which it might. We'll see. Either way, no complaints about being adjacent to the dry ice. So, yeah, this is probably fine. I think I still prefer being near all the iron, but definitely an argument for this. Meanwhile, Wolf has just been tearing through upgrades all the way up to HQ4 already. No big surprise. And we kind of pointed out, strong silicon and all that extra money from the carbon early into the life support just meant there's a very clear path to very fast upgrades, especially, again, with the cheap electronics. Always something you need to watch out for as a nomad, as a potential nomad found, when you're looking at potentially founding nomad. Yeah. It's just this potential to just dominate the game. Okay, going for this entertainment tile. Should be fine. Entertainment's not tremendous this game, but it's good enough. I mean, this is going to be a solid like 160 a second. 132 times 1.2, whatever that is. A little under 160. But yeah, it's perfectly good. And Wolf is already in most of the other strong markets anyway, so a little bit of diversification there does not hurt. One thing Wolf probably wants to look out for is power. Doesn't have any power production right now, going into this expensive pleasure dome. before long that might catch up to him. Nanotech is a nice patent to have always. Maybe not something you necessarily need to prioritize in this game. There's no strong need for you to have nanotech when you have such strong silicon, but it's fine. One thing I'd really want to see though is, yeah, okay, he did stop auto-selling water. At $1, it's making you next to no money. It also just means you're not accumulating that nice stockpile. So if things ever go crazy there, if your water gets frozen a bunch, if you suddenly need to be producing a ton of life support, you'll be prepared if you have that stockpile. Well, looking back at Clapper, again, kinda just an awkward little opening, single tiles everywhere. When you don't use adjacency, it's just going to slow you down so much. You're making so much less money per tile. Same thing going on with Scream. Lots of single tiles. Okay, Wolf going for Superconductor should pay off quite nicely. Has the triangle of solar panels down now. And power is going to stay strong because no one is producing very much. In fact, he's the only one with any significant surplus. So with Superconductor, that should clear out pretty much the last of his problems. He should be in a position to just dominate the rest of the game. Also just has this optimization center going up. It goes well with everything else he's doing. Going to have a lot of nice long-term advantages built in. X9 has a nice little base setup here. Again, kind of would have liked to see this aluminum connected instead. A little bit worse production, but just saves you the fuel. So much faster to get online. X9 also going for some wind. That is not something I'd like to see. Like, one of the advantages of looking at founding closer to this cliff edge instead of in between water and iron is just that you'd be able to put some wind on some of these cliff tiles. Right now, none of them look tremendous to replace. I guess like condenser and wind there would do pretty well, but it saves you from having remote claims. Remote claims are the devil. Avoid remote claims unless absolutely necessary. That is an overstatement, but I'm gonna go with it. Okay, solar flare plus superconductor is just an insane amount of power. Power is now dead. Wolf can look at transitioning some of this power into other stuff. Has one claim left too. I think personally what I'd like to see is one claim returned and then just connect up this aluminum. There's no clean way to, I guess you could double return the aluminum, but you don't really want to do that in case there's ever a need for it later. So just, you know, return one, connect up, gives you all those claims, opens them all up for use immediately. And it's relatively economical. I guess he does have 5 return claims, so returning 2 right now also wouldn't be a problem. Returning just the medium also wouldn't be a problem. There are options there. I don't think staying in 2 aluminum tiles should be one of the options. You can say a similar thing about this carbon quarry, and you just have well over 1,000 of both types of stuff. You don't need this quarry. Although to be fair, it is hard to say no to this ridiculous sort of slant drilling nonsense. It's not good, but it is ridiculous, and ridiculous can be fun. Anyway, Wolf has close to 100k now. I will be curious to see what his plan is for finishing out this game, which more or less means Offworlds. Offworlds are decent. Food is a decent launch, but just sitting on the one optimization center and kind of chugging along isn't quite enough. This hacker array is inactive. Doing something with it could help, but Again, these are all things you need to see in motion. He is building an Offworld. And yeah, I should really fix that issue so you can cycle to Offworlds. Or cycle to special buildings that are under construction when you're observing. But that is a problem for another day. Offworld is under construction here. Black market is absurdly cheap for this point in the game. Only 2 power surges, 1 pirate, a bunch of claims been bought. So basically this Offworld can get knocked down really easily. Wolf definitely wants to have some goon squads on it. Probably would have done well. Okay, you missed out thinking machines. So that wasn't an option, but definitely needs a goon squad. In 10 seconds. Otherwise, just dynamite, 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 and suddenly that lead starts to evaporate. Probably not. He still has a massive, massive lead. X9, why are you stalling out so hard? Part of it is all the patents, but even then, I guess part of it's also just sitting on 2 steel mills the whole game. It's going to be pretty slow. It's not quite producing enough to upgrade at a reasonable rate. The other thing that went on, he's overproducing aluminum for a long time and also selling it that whole time, which means that aluminum is now $5. He didn't make a lot of money off of aluminum, but he also doesn't have the aluminum to upgrade. So yeah, they're not in a great spot there. Screamman, again, still struggling on a bunch of single claims. Clapper, starting to establish some adjacency, still just a bit too far behind. Founded on too much debt, and just couldn't make that work because single tiles. Like, there's a world in which Clapper founds on slightly less debt, uses adjacency, and is pretty close to where Wolf is. But that's not the world we're in right now. Wolf is getting up the second Offworld market, already has 280k. No one is in any position to challenge. And pretty much buy out whoever he wants. Not even with much difficulty. Pleasure Dome auction. It's gonna be a pretty solid Pleasure Dome. $220 for Wolf. Probably $150 for anyone else. $32k is not unreasonable. Pleasure Dome, not a cheap building to build, and you know, saves you all the time of building it. It gives you an extra claim, and as long as you're not struggling in debt, which no one really is this game, it's just fine. Also hurts Wolf's profit a lot. Just $110 less all of a sudden. 1/3. Oh, this Marsquake. Marsquakes will always just tend to advantage the person with the most stuff, and Wolf has the most stuff. That's really all there is to it. He has 400k now. Starting to buy out Clapper. Should get the majority by pretty cleanly. I mean, Clapper does have enough to defend, but I don't expect that to happen, honestly. Especially since this upgrade just happened, which means, you know, suddenly no money to defend. Again, gotta watch out for this sort of stuff before upgrading. Okay, next majority buyout's gonna come real fast. And then Wolf just buys into those 5, and we wait for the end. With 2 Offworlds, that should not be far off. Fuel launches, food launches, doing a nice mix of launches. As prices jump around a bit. How are optimizations looking? Yeah, they're pretty reasonable, honestly. 3 on food is more or less where you want to be. Might even look to push the 4th on food, just because it is ultimately what you want to be launching Offworld. And it's strong. Anyway, like we saw happening, like kind of foresaw this because it was kind of the obvious play. But yeah, this buy-in has started happening. Wolf is just 70k away from finishing. 2 launches finishing soon means this game is well and over. Wolf just needs to notice that he has the money, selling out a bunch of stuff, has the button, gets the buy. Well done. Yep. Nomad is really strong, guys. That is a lot of the takeaway. Under the right conditions, a Nomad will just snowball like crazy and kill everyone. This game in particular, there were some additional advantages to Wolf. He didn't, like even with the 2 scavengers, none of them provided enough downward pressure on carbon early to really contest that. The double tile carbon. So got more money off of that than you might have expected. There's so little black market usage. So it wasn't slowed down like that. And just kind of was allowed to do his thing. And in Offworld, when you're allowed to do your thing, you know, everything just becomes easier. X9, a nice solid found, but little things here and there maybe could have been refined a bit. Could have helped him keep up a bit more. But yeah, also just was always going to be slower than the Nomad. And when you're not applying much pressure on the leader yourself, and you also don't have people supporting you in applying that pressure, getting off to a slower start can be a death sentence. So yeah, what was this game?